gentlemen, welcome to the main event. Let's get ready to rumble!
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Cramer, joined by my co-host, Daniel Bobo Curlin. And Dan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing fine. I hope everyone watching the show, depending if you're in the hurricane, hopefully you're pulling through the storm okay, and hopefully I guess you found a way to watch this episode. Because I've seen personally how crazy the Florida can be during hurricanes. I was once in Florida when Hurricane Andrew happened.
Wow, yeah, man. And definitely hurricanes no joke. So we send out all of our love to everybody in the state of Florida right now, battening down the hatches, getting ready for the hurricane over there. Hopefully everybody's okay. We've seen some crazy videos coming out of there. So hopefully everybody is in a safe spot. And nice and dry listening to the Best Seat in the House podcast. So we appreciate everybody coming back once again here for episode number 78. Boy, we're really getting up there, Dan. Crazy to think we're knocking on the door of 100 episodes now, right?
Yeah, it's hard to believe we're knocking on the door a good old 100, which wish our Mets were playing at a 100 pace this year, but at least we're at a show 100, getting close to
it. Yeah, you got that right, man. I wish the Mets were playing at a 100 pace this year. Unfortunately, that's not the case. As I just saw a ground rule double go in the corner there, so the Mets just grabbed a 4-1 lead against Texas. Oh no, they're sending Lindor back to third. So okay, it's Jeff McNeil double. Mets lead 3-1 against the Texas Rangers here in the bottom of the fifth, with the heart of the lineup coming up. So chance for the Mets to avoid the sweep there tonight against Texas. But we'll get to a little bit of baseball later on. Before we get to anything else, Dan, we know the big story of the last couple of days, at least, have been the big Jets-Giants game that happened at MetLife Stadium this past Saturday night. The result of the game really doesn't matter. Jets won 32-24, but, to be honest, most of this game was decided by guys who are going to pretty much be on neither roster. The roster is cut down yesterday, actually, from 90 to 53. It's the first time the NFL has allowed teams to carry 90 players this late in camp. It was definitely good. There was a lot of guys that stood out, but it's good now to know that these are the 53 guys that we're going into the season with, Dan, right? I mean, no more of these training camp stories of guys who were trying to make it up against. It's all about the 53 men that are going to be on the main roster and ready to go on September 10th for you guys and September 10th for my team, the Jets. So, what are your thoughts on the Giants' final 53-man roster right now?
I feel it's a well balanced roster. We made some nice moves. Now it's the only thing that's left to do is to prove it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And one guy who I really didn't see being on that Giants roster, mostly because the guy I'm about to reference right now was on the Arizona Cardinals as of about a week ago, but a really, really great job by the Giants GM to strike when the iron is hot. He went out and acquired the former number 8 overall pick in the NFL draft. I believe it was 2020 or 2021, just a short couple of years ago. Isaiah Simmons, defensive back, safety. He could also line up as a linebacker in, Wink's very, very good structured defense. He knows how to use players and use them like a Swiss Army knife. And Isaiah Simmons is a big pickup for the Giants, man. I'm telling you right now, he was with the Giants. The Giants, for the most part, didn't have any starters in there. Even though the Jets, we'll get to them in a minute, but the Jets had their first team guys on starting that game for the first series or two. But the Giants didn't start any of their guys. But one guy they did stick out there who probably has a chance to be a first team guy is Isaiah Simmons. And this guy looked really good pressuring the quarterback coming in from the outside. I think that this is a really phenomenal pickup by the Giants, and it's really flying under the radar.
Yeah, I have to say he's flying under the radar, but it's probably going to be a really big factor in the outcome of the season. And every team has those players that just somehow flies under the radar. We remember 2011, there was a wide receiver named Victor Cruz that was kind of flew under the radar. He was like with the team before, but he had got injured during the preseason. But somehow Eli Manning spoke very highly of the guy, thought very highly of the guy, and convinced them to give this guy another look when he was recovered from that injury. And they gave him a shot, and turned out to be one of the biggest factors in a championship season.
Yeah, man, you're definitely right about that. As a Jets fan, I'll never forget the 99-yard Victor Cruz touchdown that pretty much ended my season in 2011 and sent the Giants off on a trajectory to win their second Super Bowl in 4 years. That was Victor Cruz putting a stake through the Jets' heart that night. I'll never forget that. And yeah, you're absolutely right, man. Sometimes these guys that fly under the radar really end up making giant impacts. And I think that Joe Shane going out there and making this move for the Giants. And the thing is, though, look, Isaiah Simmons is still a very good quarterback. A very good defensive back. And the Giants can definitely use him. But the thing that really makes the value in this deal so great to me is that how many times can you go out there and pick up the number 8 overall pick in the draft from just a year or two prior for a 7th round pick? The fact that they pretty much gave up nothing for him. And as a Jets fan, I was sitting over there jealous because I think he's the type of piece that would fit perfectly on the Jets. But that's just the fact of the matter, that this is the type of player that can fit in any defense. And Wink Martindale is a hell of a defensive coordinator, and he's going to get everything he can out of this kid.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited about this. I feel like we got a steal of a deal in this acquisition.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And just to keep it to rolling on there. I mean, like we said, the outcome of that game was largely irrelevant. 32-24. Tim Boyle threw a couple of touchdowns. The Giants' backup looked pretty good. He got released, but he's going to end up on the Giants practice squad, so that's not too bad for him. The other thing that was of major note in that game, obviously, was Aaron Rodgers suiting up for the Jets for the first time. Went out there, put on the green and white, went 5 of 8, 47 yards, a touchdown. 3 of those completions and 30 of those 47 yards went to Garrett Wilson, a.k.a. Devontae Adams Jr., and, that's going to be, Rodgers' next big target. So, of course, they were working things out, and, it was good to see. Seeing these guys get on the same page and in a game atmosphere and everything, and seeing it. I don't know if you've seen this week's Hard Knocks, Dan, but it was pretty cool seeing Rodgers take Garrett Wilson off to the side and, make a couple of comments to him, give him a couple of words of advice, and also let him know exactly what he wants him to do in certain situations. So, when you have a young receiver and a veteran quarterback like this, it's just it's like the perfect combination,
Yeah, I feel you guys got got a great mix there from what I've seen so far. Also, maybe some of you people may be questioning why they had like Aaron Rodgers play the last preseason game. He probably was trying to get as much get used to the new team as possible. Another thing, this surface at MetLife Stadium is a brand new they just put in there that hopefully solves the issue for both teams. They've said that the surface was like literally a monster, literally like taking out players, from what I've been hearing, and hopefully they right as close to real grass as possible. I know a lot of players really would want real grass. Unfortunately, the way a stadium like MetLife Stadium operates, they can't. They're not willing to put real grass because they want to still be able to host like all those non-football events that they host in the Meadowland in the MetLife Stadium throughout the year. However, I hear real grass could make an appearance, if only for maybe one season or maybe an experiment, because apparently MetLife Stadium is going to be one of the stadiums hosting the World Cup soccer games in a couple of years down the line. And the World Cup is mandated that they have to use real grass. So during that year, it's going to be on real grass, potentially because of that.
Well, that's very interesting. I didn't know about that. The World Cup. I knew the World Cup was going to be at MetLife in a couple of years, but I did not realize that it was, going to be necessary to make it a grass surface. Very, very interesting. And Dan, that's a fantastic point by you, because that's exactly where I was going next. I think a big part of the reason why Rodgers wanted to go out there was the surface that you just pointed out. And I mean, it's a brand new service that they just replaced earlier this year. And you're right, that last surface they had got bad reviews from everybody that played on it. And us Giants and Jet fans have seen catastrophic injuries take place on that surface over the last few years. So definitely a great thing that they got, this new surface in there. And you know what? I've seen, Rodgers go out there and take some snaps in a couple of the pre-games and everything in the preseason, but nothing compares to being out there in a game situation and seeing how your body reacts to being on there. So yeah, I think that's a very good point by you, because I think the fact that the surface was changed was a big reason, maybe even bigger than, getting on the field for the new team and breaking the ice and all that kind of stuff. I think the field surface may have even played a bigger role in that. So very good point. And, of course, the other thing that we had to touch on from this game is the little jawing that's going on, making Jets Giants a little bit more interesting, because Jihad Ward, the Giants defensive lineman, and Aaron Rodgers have been, I think there's not really a war of words anymore, but now everybody has become aware of what was said and everything. So if you're not aware, and I wish I could show the clip from Hard Knocks, but what they showed was that in the game on Saturday night, on the second drive with Rodgers, the second series, the touchdown series, Jihad Ward apparently was a little upset that earlier on a punt return, Randall Cobb got called for some kind of interference penalty where he made a tackle that a couple of years ago was a legal tackle, but since then they've outlawed that. So obviously Rodgers and Randall Cobb being the older guys, that's something that, might be forgotten or something like that, because it didn't really look like that bad of a hit, but I guess it's just an illegal hit now. Well, apparently that illegal hit really pissed off Jihad Ward, because he said that he saw Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb laughing about it on the sideline. Now, on Hard Knocks, we saw what they were talking about. And what they were laughing about was Aaron Rodgers pretty much ripping Randall Cobb and saying, "What are you doing, man? Have you lost your mind? That's an illegal hit." And Cobb knew he made a mistake and said he kind of lost his head and blacked out for a minute and screwed up. Hey, that's what happens in the preseason sometimes. You'd rather it happens here than in the regular season. Well, like I said, apparently that upset Jihad Ward so much that on the next attempt of passing by Aaron Rodgers, even as Rodgers said, 5 steps after he had thrown the ball, Jihad Ward came in and made contact with him, which set Rodgers off. And Rodgers is saying, that's Bush League. Who is this guy? Who are you? I don't even know who you are, bro. Like, have some respect, which I agree with Rodgers. I mean, in a preseason game, when he doesn't even have the ball in his hand for 5 steps anymore, there's no way that anybody should be making contact with him, much less the defensive lineman of the opposing team. Now, my only problem with it that's bigger than that is that none of the Jets' offensive linemen were back there protecting their quarterback's ass. Hey, guys, we got a 39-year-old quarterback. You have to protect him. You got to be the wall between him and everybody else. So, it's just funny to see how things, and, Jihad Ward went out there and said that pissed him off and he wasn't happy about it. And, hey, look, the guy got clowned on Hard Knocks by one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of football. So I could kind of understand him being upset a little bit. But did you catch this at all, Dan?
Yeah, I caught that. I just feel like it's like what's going on here? It's like no need to freaking do this in like the meaningless regular season game. Save this shit for the season.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Because hey, unlike most years, the Jets and the Giants play each other this year, so it's really going to be in the regular season. So it's going to be those emotions and that chance to hit somebody out there. So if you want to take a shot at Rodgers, the Giants are going to have a shot at it in Week 8. I mean, not a cheap shot, but hey, go out there and if you want to make your point heard, Jihad Ward, go out there and play a hell of a game in Week 8 when the Jets and the Giants play. Don't go out there and take some crappy late shot at Rodgers. That was a little lame. But hey, that's what happens in the preseason. These guys, they have long camps, man. These guys go out there and they're out there in the sun all day for 6-7 weeks. And hey, the tensions rise high. But the fact of the matter is that luckily that was swept under the rug. Okay, a little bit embarrassing, maybe for both sides a little bit, but hey, it's over and done with. And now we move on. And the next time we see the Jets and the Giants on the same field, it's going to be pretty special, man, because this has a chance to be the most meaningful in-season game for the Jets and the Giants since that 2011 game that we just referenced with the Victor Cruz game from Christmas Eve 2011. So that there's definitely going to be a lot of juice to this rivalry going into it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember that. That was still a crazy Christmas Eve. I was under the weather that Christmas. I think I could barely talk. I sounded like Marlon Brando in The Godfather. That's how bad. I cannot describe it. To be sick that and on Christmas Day, not quite fun. It's happened to me 3 times on Christmas Day, and it's not fun to be sick as a dog on Christmas.
No, definitely not, man. Definitely not. And hopefully you're not sick on Christmas this year, because you got a big game on Christmas Day this year. I don't know if you saw this, but I was looking at the Giants schedule, and actually 2 of the Giants' last 3 games are against Philadelphia this year, which is kind of sad, actually. I was kind of hoping that the Giants played them earlier in the year, because there's a Philadelphia writer I want to get on to talk about the Eagles and how they play the Jets and the Giants this year. But, hey, we'll save it for the end of the year maybe. But the Jets and the Giants and the Eagles don't play for the first time until Christmas this year. So December 25th, you're going to have an early game with the Knicks kicking things off. I think they play the Milwaukee Bucks at noon on Christmas. And then later that day, you're going to have the Giants and the Eagles in a big time matchup, man. So it's going to be a fun Christmas this year, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a nice little Christmas in the living room. Grab a nice. It'll be a nice time to grab a nice cup of eggnog and watch a basketball and football doubleheader in the living room with Mr. Malunigan sitting on my lap, of course, because if I chose to watch the game in a living room rather than my room, he's gonna sit on my lap if I'm sitting on that couch.
Exactly, your game buddy right there, Mr. Malunigan's joining you there. So yeah, man, and so that's gonna be fun, no doubt about it. And just so everybody knows too, I think Dan, me and you haven't talked about this, but I think because the NFL season kicks off next Thursday. So I mean, this episode debuts on Thursday, August 31st. We're taping it right now on Wednesday the 30th. But this episode debuts on the 31st, and then 1 week from the day of this debut is the beginning of the NFL season, where the Chiefs take on the Detroit Lions at 8 o'clock on the NFL Network. Really going to be a lot of fireworks starting off there. Then, hey, we really just kind of sit back and watch all this fun football until the Giants start things up with the Cowboys and on Sunday Night Football, and the Jets finish things up with the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. So very interesting stretch right there too. But what I was going to say is, I think, Dan, it would be a good idea. How about next week, on next week's show, we put out our NFL picks for this season. We'll do, just like for baseball, we'll do divisions, we'll do playoff picks and all that. So how does that sound for next week's episode?
I'm excited about that. I like that idea. Next week's episode, we'll do our playoff picks.
Yeah, we'll pick our division winners. We'll throw out some playoff predictions, maybe a little Super Bowl prediction. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a preview at a little Subway Super Bowl action this year. You never know. And so we'll keep it going though. Here right now, this is going to be a slightly shorter episode this week, but we always get you back on the back end. So maybe we'll have a bonus episode coming down at some point. And football preview, all that kind of stuff. To keep it going though, baseball now. Let's jump back with the Mets. Mets trying to avoid the sweep against Texas tonight. Right now, unfortunately, the Mets couldn't cash in. We were talking about before, they had second and third, nobody out, up 3-1 in the Texas Rangers, and they did not get the job done. They left it 3-1. Now it's the top of the sixth. The bases are loaded for Texas and 1 out. Sean Reed-Foley's in the game, and he just walked in a run. So it's now 3-2 New York, hoping that Sean Reed-Foley can find his way out of this jam and the Mets could win. But unfortunately, it just really doesn't matter. I mean, that's the situation we are in right now as Met fans. We're playing 9 straight games against 3 pretty fun teams to watch in the AL West. The Angels, the Texas Rangers right now, and then after this, we're going to have the Seattle Mariners coming in this weekend. What are your thoughts on this season right now where we stand, Dan? Are you still locked in, like you normally would be? Or are you just disgusted with, everything we've seen that, you still watch, but not as hardcore?
I'm still watching, still going to Citi Field, but I'm just disgusted at what I'm seeing. Like, I just can't believe this. We just had no life early in the season. Like just it's like I feel like the beginning of the second half it just started getting worse and worse. It's like this team had no pitching. I feel like, and we had no bullpen. It's like I get nervous. Like we're going to the bullpen. Oh, here we go again.
Yeah, man. I mean the bullpen has been terrible. You're right about that.
Yeah, I just feel like this pitching has led me to have nearly destroyed my TV.
It's understandable. It's understandable too, because I mean, let's take a look at this right now. The fact that Daniel Vogelback is still on this team, I just can't. I can't watch Daniel Vogelback play baseball anymore. I'm so sick of it. I just can't take it. Carlos Carrasco, I don't know what the hell happened to Carlos Carrasco. He was a very valuable pitcher last year, but he has just fallen off a cliff this year. 3-8 with a 6.8 ERA in 20 starts. Absolutely horrific. I think after Severino's last start, Carlos Carrasco might have taken over the title of worst pitcher in baseball this season. So there's that. David Peterson and Tyler McGill, look, overall, those guys have been garbage this year, but they have been pitching a little bit better lately, so I guess we could give them that. But I'll tell you this much. There are a couple of guys who I want off this team, and I never want to see play for the Mets again. First off, Daniel Vogelback, get him as far away from this team as humanly possible. Drew Smith, I am beyond sick of Drew Smith. I can't stand this guy. The second he comes in the game, he's going to give a big home run. I used to like Drew Smith a lot. I used to have a lot of confidence in Drew Smith, but he has been absolutely terrible. Jeff Brigham, terrible. Jose Quintana, I mean, I don't want to jettison him. And he hasn't pitched that bad, but the Mets just can't score for him either. So it makes watching him unbearable. Phil Bickford, Trevor Gott. Who are these guys? Sam Coonrod. I mean, Danny Mendick has pitched in a bunch of games. He's an infielder. That's how terrible the Mets have been this year. And to be honest, I really feel like Steve Cohen sold us a bill of goods this year. And I partly feel like that because, look, don't forget too, remember how many tickets the Mets sold off that Carlos Carrasco contract? Carlos Correa contract when the word broke right before Christmas that the Mets had signed Carlos Correa, and then that deal ended up not working out. They didn't bring in another bat. They still don't have another bat to protect Pete Alonso. They went into this season with no left fielder, no bat to protect Pete Alonso, and a bullpen that was hanging by a thread. We saw what happened as soon as Edwin Diaz went down. The bullpen completely fell apart. The only guy that was consistent all season is David Robertson, and he's not here anymore. I don't know, man. It's tough to watch this team. The one thing I did have to ask you though, Dan, is there has been word coming out over the last couple of days that Pete Alonso got a contract extension offer from the Mets, and that the Mets made a fair offer to him, but it just wasn't in his wheelhouse yet. That they're going to continue to negotiate, and hopefully they can get something done. But what do you think the odds are that they get a long-term deal done with Pete Alonso? Because to me, that has to be done. They have to do two things, and they have to do a lot more than two things. But two of the top priorities on this offseason have to be A, getting Pete Alonso signed up long-term, and B, getting a big bat to protect Pete Alonso. Because this, look, Alonso, is he having the greatest season ever? No. But part of the reason why he's hitting 220 is because nobody throws him anything in the zone. When Pete Alonso gets something in the zone, it usually goes out of the park. Otherwise, he's either striking out or walking. And, you can't blame pitchers for not wanting to throw him anything, But part of that reason why they feel comfortable walking Alonso is because there's no one behind him. Who was behind him most of the season? They had Jeff McNeil, who, by the way, I like Jeff McNeil, and he's had a bad year. But even when Jeff McNeil's having a good year, that's not the type of protection you need behind Pete Alonso. He needs, as the great Fran Healy would say, another big bopper, another big bat to go behind him. So people really have to think twice about pitching or not pitching to Pete Alonso. So, what do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, I think that too. Also, about this negotiation, I feel like they'll reach a fair negotiation. So usually odds are the first offer they get, maybe they're not usually always going to accept. But they'll probably negotiate that. That does show that the Mets, that's showing Pete that the Mets are interested in signing him an extension. So that's kind of how it's got to have to start first in getting the player to sign. You kind of want to show you're interested. Then maybe that makes the rest of the negotiation process maybe a little bit more easier in your favor to how you hope it's going to go. I feel like. Hello, you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. My mic cut out for a minute. But yeah, I totally agree with you on that, man. And hey, let's just hope that Billy Epler and Pete Alonso's agents and representation get together and come together on a fair deal, because the fact of the matter is that Pete Alonso is the best power hitter. Well, first of all, he's one of the best power hitters in the game today. I don't think there's any debate about that. And Pete Alonso is probably the best power hitter in the history of the Mets. I mean, look, Darryl Strawberry was, definitely a great power hitter. Dave Kingman, definitely. Piazza, David Wright. But Pete Alonso is on a different level. None of those guys were hitting 50 home runs. And Pete Alonso has that capability and has already done it. So, definite need to get this man locked up long term. So let's keep it rolling along here, Dan, as we're just about done, just about out of time here. I did want to get to, so obviously the Yankees were going for the sweep today against the Detroit Tigers. They've had a nice week finally playing a team like the Tigers, so I'm sure they were happy to feel good about themselves for a couple of days. They currently lead the Tigers 6-1 in the top of the sixth inning. Giancarlo Stanton hit a bomb tonight, so the Yankees looking to complete the sweep. But one thing that really has Yankee fans excited and people around baseball talking is that the Yankees started making the inevitable moves. We saw the Mets do moves like this about a month ago, where unfortunately still Brett Beatty and Ronnie Mauricio continue to stay in the minor leagues. Don't really understand why they're both still down. Let them take their lumps in the majors. We got nothing to play for over the next month, but we'll put that aside. As the Yankees are finally doing the right thing, they cut Josh Donaldson, that was a terrible trade as soon as they made it. That was awful. Harrison Bader, who I didn't mind that trade, but didn't work out, as Jordan Montgomery has gone on to have a good year and a half since the Yankees dealt him. But they're bringing up the kids. They're bringing up their top prospect, Jason Dominguez, who's been talked about since he was signed as a 16-year-old, and the number 8 prospect, first baseman, corner outfielder, Austin Wells, got a little bit of pop. Dominguez actually has only played 8 games at AAA this year. He ripped it up in the 8 games. He's driven in 10 runs and he's hitting .444. So maybe that kind of got the Yankees to say, hey, screw it. Let's take the chance and promote the kid while he's hot. So, what do you think, Dan? Do you think that the Yankees are making the right choice running with the kids right now for the last month? Or would you have stuck with the vets?
I think maybe the Yankees made the right decision. It doesn't look like there is much for the Yankees to play more this last month, and they just had to make the right decision. They needed to see what they got. this last month. At least see what they got. Might be a little too late, but they still had to pull the trigger, see what they got, and we'll see what happens from here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. I mean, and the Yankees are not used to being in this spot. I don't know if you saw earlier this week where the Yankees are playing Tampa Bay, and they got into a little bit of a beanball exchange with Tampa Bay, where the Yankees were hitting a couple of their guys, and um, people were wondering if Tampa Bay was going to respond, and some of the bullpen's empty, the bench is cleared, and everything. Nothing really crazy happened at all, but it was weird to hear an interview with Tampa Bay infielder Brandon Lowe after the game, and he referred to the Yankees as just a last place team trying to stay relevant and pump themselves up, and that the Rays are a better team with a better future for at least this season ahead of them, and that they've got their mind set on one thing, and that's the playoffs and making the playoffs and going as deep as they possibly can. So I don't blame him for saying that, because everything he said there is 100% correct. But it's just really weird hearing that being said about the Yankees,
That's like unheard of. Last couple of years, we've been seeing the Yankees, and like they seem to be, at least until maybe the last 2 weeks or so of the season, they'll fall out of it. If they have gone through years, they didn't make it, but they seem to go into seasons always being a factor. So this is kind of a bit odd, but like I said to some of you, maybe who might be too young to not ever know, like the Yankees not being it really this out of it. This actually does happen to baseball teams, and you're just seeing it happen. Maybe it might be the first time in your life, depending how old you are.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, it's been probably since 1992, this late in the season, that the Yankees have been this far under 500 and this far out of first place. And not to mention first place, even a wild card spot. The Yankees have buried double digits back in that too. So just a very unfamiliar position for the Yankees to be in. But the one thing I will say is that for a myriad of reasons, not only the biggest reason being that this was needed and it's a breath of fresh air, you bring the kids up when your team's having a season like this, but it also helps Brian Cashman. And the reason it helps Cashman is because it kind of takes the pressure off him for a little bit now. Wins and losses don't matter for these the last month now, because now it's all about the kids and the development. So that helps Cashman, in a perception way. It takes the pressure off Cashman, because the more these vets you get out there, the more kids you bring in. Obviously, the team is going to have that inexperience. So, I think this really helps Cashman a lot. Not only for the fact that it allows him to evaluate a couple of these young kids up close right here in the Bronx, but also because, like I said, now wins and losses don't matter. So what do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, exactly. Might probably alleviates the pressure off of Cashman now, and he's got to hopefully not. I think now it's just going out to hope that these players live up to the expectations.
Yeah, you got that right, man. And for the Yankees, there's always high expectations no matter what. So, which is another reason why this season hurts so bad for that fan base. So you can definitely understand that. And as a Met fan, we know something about disappointing seasons. So, definitely understand what the Yankee fan is going through right there. But hey, you guys had a good 30-year run. So tough luck. So as we keep rolling along here, we're just about ready to get out of here. Like I said, making it a little short this week. I did want to wrap up, though, Dan, before we get out of here, talking about the Rangers locking up the last piece of this season, and not the Texas Rangers, the New York Rangers, the hockey team, we'll throw in a little hockey here at the end. The Rangers and Alexis Lafreniere, who is a restricted free agent, agreed to a 2-year deal, $4.6 million. It's being called a show me deal because, look, this is a guy that was a former number 1 overall pick. He's been a disappointment so far. And they're just hoping, that with a bridge deal like this, that it'll bring out the best in him. And they're hoping that he can climb the depth chart this year. Obviously, he's got those 2 big blocks in Kreider and Panarin on the left side. But, hey, maybe they can start showing him some more power play time. Maybe they can, get him in more situations, get that ice time up, and let Alexis Lafreniere show that skill that got him drafted number 1 overall. Right, Dan?
I'm expecting this year. I'm expecting him to just finally go showing what we were all expecting.
So, like, if you had to make a prediction for Lafreniere this year, let's see. I'll give you 2 things. Okay, do you think he gets 20 goals?
I believe he does get 20 goals this year. My gut says that he's going to get 20 goals this year.
I agree with you on that. And how about, another thing? Do you think that he has a chance to get 50 points this season?
That one, I think, is hit or miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree because it's funny. One of the things that we were told, about Lafreniere is that he's going to be one of those type of players that sets guys up a lot, and that really racks up those assists. And so far in his young career, we really haven't seen that too much. He's been, even though he hasn't scored many goals, he's been more of a goal scorer than a facilitator, like a Artemi Panarin type. So yeah, I kind of agree with you that 50 points, that 20 points seems, 20 goals seems in the realm of possibility. 50 points, hey, let's get to 40. If he could give us 20 points and 20 goals and 20 assists for 40 points, I'd be thrilled with that. Would you?
Exactly. I'd be thrilled with that. That would be one of the signs I'd be looking for of how good our season's going.
Very true. Very true. Because it's actually kind of exactly what Capo Caco gave us this year. And while I was a little bit worried about Capo Caco last year, I'm not as worried about him this year. I think Capo Caco is going to be okay. And, last season he went out and did exactly what me and you just said. He had 40 points, 22 goals, 18 assists. So, hey, if Lafreniere can do something like that, I would definitely be very happy. So I think that's just about going to do it for us today. Dan, before we get out of here, do you have anything you'd like to plug for yourself?
Sure. For one thing, this weekend I will be visiting the Davy Mac Sports Program. I figure this is a really good weekend to pay a visit to the Davy Mac Sports Program. My old pal, the Eastside Dave, because it's just perfect for leading up into the football. Have me around, I feel like.
Absolutely, man. That's going to be awesome. Do yourself a favor and check out Eastside Dave hosting the Davy Mac Sports Program with the great Daniel Bobo Curlin as a guest this week. Now, when are you doing that, Dan? Is that on Sunday?
I believe it this weekend. It's on a Saturday. I've been in contact with Dave about the whole thing when they're filming. So I know it's got to be Saturday afternoon. I just know I got to meet up with Dave at the nearest train station to the place where they filmed the comedy club where they filmed the show, the Dojo of Comedy, which by the way, a great venue for stand-up comedy. I've seen a show there, so it's like I can confirm it's a wonderful venue for comedy, and they've been doing a great job hosting the Davy Mac Sports Program. And this is the first time I'm going to be around the Davy Mac Sports Program in this kind of a venue with everyone in person. It's the first time I'm doing this with this version show that Eastside Dave's doing, and with everyone in person, because the last time I was there, the show was still like sort of being done like remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So this is gonna be really, really. I really look forward to this. Doing first time in a while doing a show, being around with David person. Can't wait to see how it's around. Of course, the big A is gonna be there. So it's always gonna be a lot of fun little shenanigans going on the show there, and of course Roy Harder and of course behind the scenes and everything. So you usual gang of suspects. So I can't wait to see how this turns out. So it's always a great time seeing Dave, Roy, and the gang, and can't wait to see what happens on the next episode of the David Max Sports Program.
Very cool, man. I can't wait to see that too. Shout out to Dave. Shout out to Roy. Shout out to Bobby Tamburo. Shout out to the great Big A. And shout out to everybody over there doing their thing over at the Dojo of Comedy with the great Davey Max Sports Program. So, yeah, you know what? Once you do that also on Saturday, I'll make sure to include that link in the description of this video. So just in case people are watching this later this weekend and want to take a look and see Dan's great appearance that I'm sure it will be on the Eastside Dave show, people will be able to do that very easily. So
this weekend, of course, Sunday's my sister's birthday, so I just want to wish a happy birthday to my sister Shannon.
Oh, very cool. Happy birthday to Bobo's sister Shannon. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have a great birthday, Shannon. So very cool, man. Yeah, so before we get out of here, one last thing, a little plug for us. Check us out on Twitter at @bsith_podcast. Check me out there, my last name _ I'm sorry, what am I even talking about? No underscore. My last name, Cramer and Y. Check us out on Instagram at Best Seat in the House Podcast. And, if you want, make sure to subscribe and like us on YouTube and Rumble. So once again, thanks everybody for joining us here on Best Seat in the House Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Cramer, with my co-host, Daniel Bobo Carlin, and we'll catch you next week, everybody.